NaTosha,
Yes.
I have never met you. I hear that you work for Homeward House.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit about Homeward House and how you got there to that program.
Okay, I'll kind of start with how I got there.
Yeah.
So I used to suffer from drug addiction.
Yeah.
I was addicted to meth and heroin for almost 2 decades.
Yeah.
And was in and out of incarceration since I was 15 years old. And the last time that I was in prison, I went in 2016. Mm-hmm. And while I was in there, I was using drugs in there still, playing the game, and I found out that my little brother died. And a month to the day later, my mom died. I had to go to their memorial in shackles and an orange jumpsuit and say goodbye to my family. And my son found both of them, and he was 5. And it really messed with my head that I was being selfish, that I was on drugs, that I couldn't be there for my dad and my son. And I chose then to change my life, and I threw myself into a treatment program while I was in incarceration. Mm-hmm. I was sent to work release about 9 months later, and December, not even a year after my mom had passed, my dad couldn't handle it, and he jumped in front of a car and tried to kill himself. Wow. And he was in a coma, and everything was crazy. I was working at this place called Restaurant Depot trying to get myself together, and I knew in my heart I wanted to work with people and assist them in getting through the challenges that I had gone through, but I had to get through my own challenges first.
Right.
So I was doing work on myself, going to counseling, doing parenting classes, figuring out how to relive, because I didn't know how to do it. I did not know how to live. I didn't know who I was without drugs and without incarceration. That's who I was. So who am I now? And I had to do a lot of soul searching and a lot of work. I was working at like a warehouse and just doing all these classes, and I had lost the rights to my son. Oh. Well, my parents had the rights to my son, and my dad's in a coma, and my mom is not here anymore. Right. So I just threw myself into changing, and my dad came home about 4 months later. He is now mentally and physically challenged, and I take care of him to this day. I got the rights back to my son. I am married to a wonderful man, and I was in school, I'm in college, and I was working with an employment navigator, and I told her what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to get there. That was my problem throughout my life. It's like I could see what I needed, but I couldn't understand the steps to get there because I didn't know how to live a different way.
Right.
So I told her what I was looking for, and she was kind of searching for jobs for me and came up with Homeward House through the YWCA.
Right.
So she had me look over the mission, what the job description is, and if that would fit me. And I'm reading it, and it says, in order to qualify, they would prefer that you had been through a dependency and from opioid addiction. I was like, oh my gosh, that's the only time I've ever heard that this is a good thing.
Right.
Like, that's me.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got together my resume, which I'd never done one before.
Yes.
Got together, I was in and out, never knew anything else, how to get a job. How do you explain that you don't have a job history? What does that look like? But you can do it, actually. So got together my resume with some help, and I reached out, I sent it in, and I got a call the next day by Arhelia Grassfield, who is my supervisor. Uh-huh. And it's so interesting because I had an interview there. I had an interview, and what they did was on Zoom, and they were asking me these questions. I've never had an interview like this before. It was asking me if I had, basically trying to explain my CPS history, what happened with my CPS history, and things that you stay away from in a job interview, explaining my felonies, right, all these things, and what I knew about opioid addiction, and because my brother had actually passed away from an opioid overdose. And in my head, I was like, I was in love with something that killed my little brother, and that just switched my whole mindset. Mm-hmm. And so I have this interview, and it was so intense, never experienced anything like it, but I got the job. So I go in there, and it wasn't, you can read what a job description is, but when you do that kind of work, somebody can't explain that to you. Mm-mm. I remember when I started working, and what you do is you have people that you get something called a referral, and referrals get sent in, and it's basically what the parent's name, what their status is, if they have a dependency case or if they're at risk, and what their needs are. Whoever's doing it could be from their attorney, it could be from an OPD social worker, from the social worker, who they can even self-refer. And you look at that and you kind of see what their needs are, and you call them and you do an intake. You ask them questions. I like to do mine in person. I don't like to do them over the phone because when you're dealing with CPS and you have a drug addiction, there's no trust and there's no truth toward anybody. Your walls are up. So I always start, when I am doing an intake, I say I want to start by telling you what Homeward House is. We've all been through the dependency system. We have all been through addiction, and I'm not here to judge you. I'm just here to walk with you on your journey, no matter what that looks like and where you're at, because I know what it feels like to be judged and to not have somebody to confide in or talk to when your world is turning upside down. Yeah. And a lot of the times people that are dealing, like social workers or whatnot, haven't been through that, and they have these expectations, and why can't you meet these expectations in this time limit? And when somebody doesn't know how to do those things or how to live a different way, it seems like rocket science at the time. Right. So Homeward House it's a house actually, and we have stuff like this around. We have nurseries. We like to focus on 0 to 1 age, but if we have extra room, we do make exceptions to help other parents with children that are a little older. And we have a place for them to come visit. Nobody wants to go to DCYF and visit at DCYF. So it's a homey place. There's a kitchen, there's TV, there's a cottage outside, a basement. So you can just make yourself at home. You can cook for your child. You can have some bit of normalcy when you do a visitation.
And so parents come to Homeward House and they visit their children?
Yes. Some of them, their houses aren't ready to be able to be approved for home visitation. And so they either have the choice of DCYF or they get to come to Homeward House. And most of the time they want to come to Homeward House.
Of course.
And some of them are homeless, so they do not have a place to go visit. And some of them don't even have supervisors. There's visit supervisors that come and they'll sit with the parent and the child and do their visit. And there's some parents that come and their child gets dropped off and they do their visitation.
I see.
Yeah.
It sounds like the idea is really creating an environment that supports that relationship between the child, the family, and to create a space where it's safe and some sort of structured normalcy.
Yes, and as you know, we collaborate with all sorts. We have a lot of collaborations. ChildStrive. We have infant mental health specialists. Yes. We work with getting them into treatment facilities. This is what I say. I basically say, what do you need your license? I'll ask those questions because sometimes people don't know what they need.
Exactly.
And I remember going through that. Like, I didn't know what I needed. I had no idea. I was like, I don't have any clue. So I'll ask them, do you have your license? And I'll ask those little questions, something about, credit, things that you don't think about when you're in this lifestyle. Yeah. So we kind of let's do one little thing. Let's get if you need your license, let's go. You put your license down, and now let's write out the steps to get there. Wow. We got to go to the DOL website to see what you need, what's holding your license, because a lot of the times there's tickets or license revoked, so let's figure that part out. Little things. We take it and do step by step on what they need. And we're able to we support them in going to their SPMs or court visits and are able to be there and voice how well they're doing. We're not there if there's been mess ups or things like that, we're not there to talk about that. We're there to support them. Let them know that there is support. It's interesting when you're working with somebody and you see their walls are up because people are when CPS gets involved, DCYF, many people contact you, and you don't want to talk to anybody. So we're just another person contacting them. So when we let them know who we are, we've been there. Like this is a little bit about my story. You see those walls go down. You see that trust. I have parents, they'll call me daily. My phone's on at night and the weekend. I want them to know that if there's something going on, they need to talk. I'm always there.
I'm just thinking about listening to your story and just listening to how you've lost your brother, then your mother, and then your dad, then what has happened to your dad, your father, and then your son. and just looking at your own journey and how then you're doing this work and how that history, as hard as it was to be able to do this work with families now at Homeward House. I'm just wondering, as you meet all these families coming in, how do you have those conversations with them? Do you just say, "I've been there," or how do you have those conversations? How do you find a way to build that relationship with them?
I think that you share certain parts of your story. You kind of feel when you know it's right.
Yeah.
To share those pieces, but initially I can feel when you can sense that somebody is being standoffish.
Right.
And I don't want to push somebody.
Right.
But I also want them to know I get it. I understand. I'm not here. I let them know I'm not CPS. I'm not actually legally allowed to. If they call me and tell me I made a mistake, I relapsed, whatever the case may be, as long as their child wasn't with them and the child was not in harm's way, I do not have to report them. And that is very important, so that they know that trust, to build that trust. And I feel like when I share my story with them, like I let them know it's not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. People say, "Oh, you get clean and life is so much better." Well, it is, but they forget to tell you what it means to get through that time, to get to where life is better, because it's not. You're going through a lot of stuff internally, outwardly, dealing with so many things that are coming your way. It's overwhelming, and it's easier to just fall back into that old behavior. This is easy. I can do this. I'm not going to mess this up. And to continue, I used to think I was hard, gangster, all that when I was in this world. No, it takes real strength to do this.
Yeah.
And I tell them it's not going to be easy. There's going to be times where you want to scream, you're overwhelmed, you have anxiety, but you're relearning who you are. And I don't think people that haven't been through that understand what it takes to reinvent your entire being.
Yeah, because that's what you've known like as you say, I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to build a resume. I didn't know how to interview. I didn't know how to be without being involved with drugs.
Yeah.
It's like a whole new invention of being.
Yes.
And that's what people coming into Homeward House are trying to do, is create this new person.
Yes.
And you're there to meet them and join them where they're at, and helping them through those really challenging steps.
It's so rewarding.
Yeah.
It's rewarding to be able to be that person. I've had parents who I help them do all these things, and then they make a mistake, something happens, and then they feel low, and they're like, "I'm sorry," and I was like, "No, I don't ever judge you. You can fall down 100 times, and I'll be there to help pick you back up 101.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah.
So, and I love that they can come to me and let me know, "Hey, I messed up. I did this," and that building that trust is just I love what I do. It's where my passion is, my heart. I just love it. I absolutely love it.
I can tell.
I do. I do. It's amazing.